To Skinner Sports Network. I'm your host, Nate Skinner. Now, today we are going to do a 2024 mock draft for the New England Patriots. They're an interesting team right now. They have 12 losses on the season. Bill Belichick's future is up in the air. A decision by Monday should be out there and reported. Be interesting to see what they do. But we are going to take a look at the New England Patriots and what they should do in this year's draft. They're going to need quarterback, a wide receiver, tight end possibly. If you hold on to Hunter Henry and give him a number 2 that he could thrive with. I don't think Gesicki's a good guy to pair with Henry. I think you need a younger guy that's physical. And here we're gonna take a look 7-round draft and see. Well, actually, we're gonna change it more to a 5-round draft and see what they should do within the first 5 rounds, because usually picks from the 6th and 7th round don't make it as often. But we're going to do 5 rounds here fast, and we are going to take a look at what they should do. Now, with pick 1, you're looking to add a quarterback or a receiver, but with something like this, it's really not easy to pass up on, to be honest with you. You're only giving up pick 3, and you get a ton of assets from the Jets. They might be looking at a quarterback, but they might be looking at getting Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt. But a package like this, you just cannot pass up. So I'm going to take this trade. You get a lot of assets and a lot of players you can bring into the building, and you get a future second. This is the pick to take, or the trade to take. And I'm going to take this. I am looking favorable for this to work out in our favor. You're giving up 1 pick and you're getting lots of stuff back. So we are going to take that. Thank you, New York Jets, for being dumb. I'm going to take this trade. And now you could trade back here and rack in some more assets, but I'm content to sit here at pick 8. This does look favorable. You could get a first for next year. That's why it's great, but you're moving back to 20, so that's too far for my liking. But let's look at the offense here. At quarterback, you could take Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, or you could wait till the second round to get someone like Michael Penix. In real life, I don't know if Michael Penix will be in the second round. He might be a first rounder after reaching the championship game in the college football playoffs. Jaden Daniels, put a star next to his name right now as we are looking around. But interesting enough is where it gets to is the wide receivers. You got Malik Neighbors, Keon Coleman, and Roma Duze. I like Roma Duze. I think he is a great wide receiver. But I think someone like Malik Neighbors, who is a beast, he had a monster season with Jaden Daniels. And Keon Coleman is just an elite wide receiver. Big physical wide receiver that will make plays, catches, touchdowns. He is a dude. And that's where it gets tough. Do you take Keon Coleman or do you take Jaden Daniels? But I think Keon Coleman would be a perfect guy for New England, especially since they could get a wide receiver 1 out of them. And they really haven't had a wide receiver 1 for a while. It hasn't been their style to have a guy. They had Rob Gronkowski, but he was more of a tight end, but he was always their 1. But the New England Patriots need to get a 1. You could go Romo Duze, but I'm going to go Keon Coleman here at pick 8. But he's the 11th ranked prospect here. I like Keon Coleman out of Florida State, wide receiver. Here we go. And then we're on to pick 34. This is where you could look for Michael Penix. You could also trade back 2 picks and get a third for next year. I think I might do that and see what we could get. And it looks like Bo Nix went, and we didn't really give up much. But let's take a look here at quarterback. You still have Michael Penix sitting there on the board. I like Penix. He has played well in the college football playoffs against Texas. He was making plays and getting into his guys like Orduze. And I think Penix would be a great guy for New England. Give him Keon Coleman to throw the ball to. And maybe this next pick, it's a 5-round draft, but this next pick, especially with the draft capital we've gotten, you could take this right here, but I'm all set. I like this pick in the situation we're in, and even here. And we're going to reject, but getting Xavier Worthy would be huge. He's a wide receiver for the Texas Longhorns would be elite. Pair him with Keon Coleman and Penix, and you have some talent on the offense. The offense is where I put a giant circle right now. You're at pick 68, and you have pick 72 coming from the New York Jets, especially in that trade. This is why I took it, is because you can just stack the talent. Get Xavier Worthy, and then look at an offensive lineman. I'm not even sold on this one because, you could take this realistically if we're looking at you're giving up the 72nd pick and you're moving back to the 79th, but you're getting pick 126. So actually, we are going to take this trade from the Denver Broncos and stack the assets. That's what it is here in this 5-round mock draft. And then we're going to take a look. Offensive guard, offensive center, and tackle. Nothing really sticking out here. But we're going to look at tight end. You have Sanders. You have Jaheim Bell, who you could wait for if you wait. But I think running back could be interesting. Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin's a physical runner. I do think the Patriots need a number 2 guy who's young behind Ramondre Stevenson. I think it would be interesting. You also have Estime here, Audric Estime from Notre Dame, and Blake Corum, who has had a monster run here in the playoffs so far. Even scored the game winner in overtime against Alabama. So you could wait for Blake Corum, especially at pick 99, and wait there. But these could all be on. And maybe you dip here Jalen Polk or McMillan. I think Polk would be great. Get one of the Washington guys for Michael Penix, and you might be looking at the picks here thinking, wow, 3 wide receivers and 4 picks, but they don't really have guys in New England, and I think dipping in receiver a lot could help. Let's look at the defense here because I think Tavondre Sweat could be great. He has been a monster at Texas. That could be double dipping in the Texas pool. But somebody off the edge like Chris Braswell out of Alabama would be perfect because it seems like New England likes their Alabama guys. They got Barmore, who's played pretty well for them. And I think they need an edge guy like Braswell who's physical. He can push guys. I've seen it some in the Alabama games this year where he would just push offensive players back, tackles, guards. He just could get pressure on the quarterback, and that is what the Patriots need. Pair him with Keon White, and that would be great to see. So we're going to take Chris Braswell here. He is an excellent talent out of Alabama. Him and DJ Turner or DJ Dallas would be great. So we're going to take him. And then here, you could trade back 99 and 170, but we are going to stay at pick 99 and reject this offer. And let's see what we got. We could look at linebacker. Eichenberg would be pretty good. You could take a look at Deontay Lawson, but Lawson's probably staying in school for another year. You could look at Junior Colson, who's played pretty well for Michigan. Seen some of it in the game against Alabama. But corner's looking pretty good too, but you could wait till pick 104, and you might have a guy there. And safety would be interesting too. You have Jaden Hicks from Washington State, who could be a guy. Kenny Logan Jr. from Kansas. Kansas has a couple guys. Logan hasn't officially declared yet, but he could be in this year's draft. Cornerback Kobe Bryant has played great. He's been one of the shutdown corners for Kansas. He won't be in this year's draft, but there's a couple guys in Kansas to circle, really. So maybe you could take a look at him. And looking at defensive tackle, you can't get Sweat anymore because he's off the board, but you could wait for Nazir Stackhouse, who I like. But we're going to go back to the offensive side and look here. Estime from Notre Dame would be a great guy. You got to load up the offensive talent here, especially if it's a new era for Bill Belichick being gone and you have a new coach coming in. Maybe like Ben Johnson from Detroit, or look at a guy like Bieniemy from the Commanders, who's offense. And if you get them weapons, it could be great because they can always bring in offensive talent from free agency. That's always something to look at. But getting Estime, who is a talented running back, to pair with Ramondre Stevenson, it could almost be like the two-headed monster in Pittsburgh with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. If you have two guys that can just run the ball and make defenses quit and not want to be as physical anymore. I think that'd be great. I think that could work out, especially if you have Worthy and you have Coleman. You just need to get the offensive talent for the New England Patriots. So I think that could work out for them really well. So we're going to take Estime here. I really like Estime. I watched him for Notre Dame. He was a great player for them. We could trade back here to 109 and get 175, which could be fun. But I'm content at 104 here because it's just a lot of good talent here. And you could look at tight end. Cade Stover out of Ohio State would be good. I think Cade Stover would be a perfect pair. Really focusing here on the offense for the New England Patriots. Only took in one defensive player with these loads of picks here in the 5-round mock. Keon Coleman, Penix, Xavier Worthy, Chris Braswell, and Audric Estime. And I think taking Cade Stover here would be perfect. Get guys on offense who are just beast. You could have Juju be a 2 or 3, mostly a 3 here if you have two talented wide receivers. Though I think Xavier Worthy from Texas will play in the slot. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. Keon Coleman could do both. He'd probably be mainly outside, though, in the NFL, but he can play some slot. So getting position versatility from your wide receivers in Worthy and Coleman would be great. And pairing that with someone like Estime to give Penix some guys on offense would be great. But getting Stover to pair with all this talent would be the cherry on top. So we're going to take Cade Stover here out of Ohio State. He has been very efficient and just productive for an Ohio State team, though Ohio State hasn't gone anywhere with the talent they've had with Harrison Jr. and Cade Stover. Cade Stover is a guy that could be great paired with Hunter Henry. So we're going to take Cade Stover here. A lot of big names on coming to this offense, and you could almost look here at offensive linemen. You know, a lot of talent on the offensive line would help. Good players. You could look at Drake Nugent from Michigan, who's played pretty well. Juergens from Wake Forest would be good if he's still sitting around. Tackles, Blake Fisher would be great. Anthony Belton from NC State, physical tackle. And maybe you wait and see what's going on later in the draft. But 126 and 130 being the last two picks here. Let's see what's on the defensive side. Cornerback, you could get Kyrie Jackson out of Oregon, originally at Alabama. He transferred to Oregon and had a really good season, actually. Could be a guy to pair with Christian Gonzalez. But linebackers good to look at. Deontay Lawson, I think, will be going back to school. But Junior Colson for Michigan had some great plays late in the game against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is an absolute classic. But defensive tackle could be interesting. I think Nasir Stackhouse later in the draft after that trade with New York would be great. This is only 5 rounds. Safety would be interesting to look at too because with Kyle Duggar, he needs another guy back there that's young so they could build some chemistry. And Jaden Hicks from Washington State is on my board of players I'd circle and get no matter what team is on the board or picking. I like Jaden Hicks. He plays just instinctually. I think he plays well. He's a physical safety, but he is a playmaker. You watch him at Washington State. He's a playmaker. I like Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. So we're going to take it here before we had to pick 126 and 130. Still 2 picks to look on offense, or you can kind of shop around on defense to get a couple young players on that defense. But next, we're going to take a dip here at wide receiver. You could look at someone like Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton could be good, but it could make a crowded room. Running back is all set, even quarterback and tight end. So we're going to take a look here on defense. If you stack the offensive talent, you could also look here again at line. And I think here is where you take Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. He's going to have some chemistry with a guy in Estime who you're taking earlier in the draft. So we're going to take Blake Fisher here at tackle, get a guy who can go on the line and really help the team out. So we're going to take a look at offensive line help. And here with the last pick in the 5-round draft, mock draft, we're going to take a look on defense here. Edge guys defensive tackles, and even corner. I think corner is another guy you could kind of stash another guy, even offense again. It does not help to stack talent on offense, especially if you want to become a young offense that builds over time. Surround Michael Penix here if you're taking him in this mock draft with the talent he needs to be successful in the future. Get him an offensive coordinator if Bill's staying around because Bill O'Brien just isn't that guy. I think getting somebody at head coach, especially Bill Belichick, is fired and let go or they mutually part ways. I think getting a offensive minded guy, especially if you're going to load heavy on offense, get a guy like Ben Johnson, get a guy like Eric Bieniemy. They have systems that are working. Ben Johnson working with Jared Goff, who Jared Goff was written off by the Rams and has played pretty well in that Lions system. But Ben Johnson is a good offensive coordinator. He has the system. Eric Bieniemy has success in Kansas City, especially working with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who's talented. Michael Penix Jr. is talented. And I like Washington and Penix to win the championship. I think Penix is a guy that thrives in close games, but he can also win you games just by slinging the rock. I think he's that guy at quarterback. But we're going to take a look here. It wouldn't hurt to take one more wide receiver, especially a guy like Jermaine Burton. It's interesting to see because you've already loaded up, but I'm going to look here at linebacker and get Junior Colson to finish this out. He's a linebacker out of Michigan. He's fast, can make plays, and he's just a guy that you'd like. He's a veteran guy from college, so he's going to come in and kind of understand some things better than second year rookie, third year rookie. He's been around a long time, so he's going to understand the game a little bit, and he's a good player, solid player to add to that linebacking corps. So this is going to conclude the 5-round mock draft, and I think with this talent right here, from trades, you've stacked a second from the Jets and a third from Washington, but you really load up on the offensive side. The final mock draft here is at pick 8, Keon Coleman, Florida State wide receiver. And into round 2, early round 2, you went from 34 to 36, traded with Washington to get Michael Penix Jr., and that's going to be your future quarterback. Xavier Worthy, great wide receiver out of Texas. Chris Broswell out of Alabama for edge help. Get an Estime running back to pair with Ramondre Stevenson. Kate Stover to help Hunter Henry out. Jaden Hicks out of Washington State to pair with Duggar. Blake Fisher to help on the line, and getting a good linebacker like Junior Colson will help that defense, especially when preventing the run or just needing some physicality from the linebackers will help out. But that is going to do it today. That's just going to conclude the 5-round mock draft for the New England Patriots. Thank you for watching. If you got any questions, concerns, make sure to leave it in the comments. But here we go. We're going to start to get into draft mode. We're going to talk about the playoffs if anything interesting happens, even just to talk about the playoffs. A lot coming on and a lot going on, and some new content coming for Skinner Sports Network here in this new year of 2024. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Nate Skinner. Peace.